Inspirational. Powerfully refining. And unapologetically controversial. Conversations with the Royal Empress. The entire world knows the secret of who you are. Now is the time to step into your queendom and become the Royal Empress that you're meant to be. One woman at a time. Conversations with the Royal Empress. Now Akila, she's the analytical empress. Akima, she's the empress that will challenge you. And Lakashay Nadira, she's the empress who tells it like it is. Now, straighten up your crown and be elevated through conversations. Conversations with the Royal Empress.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with the Royal Empress. This is Akila, and I am joined by my co-host Hakima and Lakashay Nadira. Today, we have a special guest, personal wealth expert and economist, Bahiyah Shabazz. Welcome to the show, Bahiyah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So our topic today is on wealth building, management, and how Black women should keep their financial affairs in order. But first, a bit about our guest. Bahiyah Shabazz is a wealth expert and economist. You reach your goals by holding you accountable while improving both your self-worth and net worth. She is a leader in visualizing and maximizing your growth. Bahiyah empowers you to clarify your goals, change your habits, and not place limits on your financial growth. She is also the author of multiple books, including best-selling Women Building Wealth. As a previous vice president of retail financial services and investments at one of the leading global financial services firm, she advised individuals and small business owners how to accomplish financial goals and successfully increase cash flow through adequate strategic planning. With a psychology, African studies, and financial background, she noticed the imbalance between the various communities. Bahiyah's educational path and experience continue to allow her the expertise to discuss Black economics, economic development, and group economics to obtain financial growth in communities. Bahiyah is also an adjunct faculty in economics at Ivy Tech College. She is also the president of Shabazz Management Group and executive director and founder of Brown Girls Do Invest. Bahiyah is now a doctoral candidate for the Doctor of Business Administration, specializing in finance at Walden University. Woo!
I know.
And there's so much more. And we'll let you talk. And we will let you talk about all of that. Is there anything you'd like to add to that bio?
No. I thank you for reading it. I love what I do. More importantly, making sure I help the community and discuss how to build your wealth across the board. So that is my ultimate goal, as well as addressing our economics and being inclusive in the conversation. So many times we are not included for whatever reason. So it's about educating to give us that opportunity to have a seat at the table.
Yes, ma'am. So my first question for you tonight is, I know that, and it's something that I know that you're passionate about, and that is discussing racial wealth disparities. Mm-hmm. And what is your take on why there is such disparities between the Black community and other communities in the United States?
Wow, let me start by saying that when I talk about this topic, when it comes to disparity, it's basically my why on what I do. What I love to do. And I'm going to tell you this, according to a couple of surveys, one in particular, the Urban Institute report, it states that as of 2013 was the last time they did the report, that white families had about $130,000 compared to $19,000 for Black families in retirement. That right there speaks volumes, and that's one of the disparities that drives me on how we can close that gap. And when you think about why we have that disparity, it has a lot to do with home ownership as well as our retirement. So when it comes to home ownership, when you think about it, a lot of their equity that they have in their homes, which they were able to purchase far in advance before us, they were ahead of the eight ball and they were able to accumulate their wealth that way. We were not able to. We were low income, and we unfortunately did not have that opportunity to purchase homes. In addition to the disparity has everything, as I said before, with retirement. And the numbers that I gave you, the $19,000 that Black families has everything to do with the 401k, 403b, and the IRA, the individual retirement account. So think about that. A lot of us, Black women in particular, we try to be safe when it comes to investing. When we finally do invest, we're so safe with it. And because we are safe, we're looking to deposit our funds into fixed accounts, and accounts that are going to guarantee a percentage, such as an annuity. And when I worked with a particular global financial firm, that was one of the things when I sat down in front of our community. Well, I do want to save for retirement, but I do not want to lose my money. So can you explain to me about fixed accounts? And then right now, when people want to discuss 401k, they feel as though they do not want to tamper with their net income. They feel as though if they do invest 5%, that they're literally going to lose 5% of their finances. So that's the disparity, the home ownership as well as investing in retirement. If we can change our mindset into getting more into stocks, then we can possibly, close out that gap.
Wow. I want you to just explain a little bit about the various things that you were talking about in terms of IRA. Some people don't even know what an IRA is.
An IRA is a individual retirement account. With the individual retirement account, you can actually use that to invest in mutual funds, as opposed to people saying that they are uncomfortable with investing in stocks, individual stocks, because they do not know where to begin. If you were to sit down with an advisor, a trusted advisor, and ask questions such as, what is my minimum to deposit into to start out with this retirement account? Some may tell you that is nothing to start out, depending on where you go, $25, $500, where have you. But with the individual retirement account, it gives you an opportunity to accumulate the rate of return, a higher rate of return, as opposed to a fixed amount. Now, I'm going to tell you this: when it comes to individual retirement account and maxing it out, the $5,000, we're around the tax season right now where some people are going to get a tax refund. Instead of using your tax refund to go out and purchase you a handbag or a vacation, think about what you can do to maximize your dollars. And one of the ways you can do that, of course, is to pay off any unwarranted debt that you may have. But in addition to that, of course, deposit into an individual retirement account. And basically, is your retirement account outside of your 401k or your 403b or 457 plan, depending on where you work. I like to encourage people to look at individual retirement accounts in addition to what you have with your employer. For one, with your employer, of course, contribute toward that account, especially if your employer matches what you are going to put in the first, for example, 3%. Try to maximize that, as well as max out or contribute towards your IRA, you think about how you can use every bucket that you can. When we talk about multiple streams of income, of course, outside of working, you think about your multiple streams of investing. So where can you invest your money is where I like to put it. With the individual retirement account, it's just that individual, is not joint. So you may be married, or you have a spouse or a loved one, and you may want to pull him or her along as well and say, hey, put your name on this account and we can have it together. That's not what an individual account is. A retirement account is strictly that individual. It has everything to do with you. So you sit down and you go over what your needs are, what your wants are, what your vision is for your retirement. How do you want that to be? So those are some questions that you should answer when it comes to an advisor, so that he or she can put you in the proper retirement account. Because of course, depending on how you answer the questions, it can be any account from conservative, balanced, moderate, as well as aggressive. The older you get, the less aggressive you are. I, on the other hand, I'm consistently aggressive. I want my money. I want my money to work with me. And I understand the more aggressive I am, the more I may possibly lose. But I'm going to tell you this, I love what I do, and I do not plan on retiring anytime soon. So I'm going to put that money in there, and ride the roller coaster. And for those who get the butterfly when it comes to investing, I ask people all the time, because I did mention roller coaster. Have you ever gone to Six Flags or any other local amusement park? And if you say yes, you know how it feels when you get on a ride, especially in the front. You put your hands up and they say, keep your hands inside the ride. Don't stick them out. Enjoy yourself. And you're going up and down, up and down, up and down. But nothing's going to happen to you, theoretically, unless you jump off. And that's the same thing when it comes to investing. You just want to enjoy the ride. When people freak out and they say, well, the stocks aren't doing well. I looked at my portfolio and my individual retirement account in Bahia. I lost a couple $100 and sometimes maybe even thousands. Fine. Did you lose all your money? No. Let me give you a different approach then when it comes to your individual retirement account or your 401k. Think of it like this. When it dips, it's on sale. Get more. Get more. Think about it. If you were shopping at Macy's and you wanted to buy yourself a pair of Levi's, and those Levi's were $50, and you're like, I don't know if I want to spend $50. I only have $40 in my pocket. I'll come back next week and I'll buy 2 pair. Now you have $100 in your hand. You're back at Macy's. The pants are now on sale. And they're no longer, $50. They're down to $25. Now you can get 4 pair, right? They're on sale. You get more. Never tried them on. And I'm using fashion because, hey, we love fashion. You buy 4 pair instead of 2 pair. You never tried it on. You went home. You finally tried them on. They do not fit. You wait a couple of weeks. You go back. Salesperson says, well, I can take them back for you. Do you have the receipt? I lost my receipt. What do? They give you whatever the price is at that time. The sale is no longer there. It's now $50 a pair. You came up. Now that's $200 for 4 pair. You're like, oh my goodness, I just made money because I bought something on sale. Same thing when it comes to the market you're dipping. So those are the analogies that I like to think of when it comes to investing, and making sure that you do use everything that you have.
Now I feel like I have less fear.
You know what? It's not as scary as you think it is. I'm going to tell you, the fear comes from the unknown. And when we think about our money, our finances, we think about our retirement. Everything focused on, when it comes to retirement, money, money, money. But you have to think about some things when it comes to money. There's more than just money. You have to think about your values. You have to think about your habits. You have to think about your accountability. And Akila, you have to think about the fear as well. What are you fearful of? Why are you holding that money so tight? And you, when you think about, when you start really breaking down the fear of your money, or those who spend money frivolously, why do they do that? And it has everything to do with our upbringing. When you start tapping into that, you will see a lot of things, because I've sat down with people, including myself. We are basically our parents' children. How was your upbringing when it came to your money? When you viewed your parents, when they handled their money, did they disclose what a dollar really meant? Or were you one of those households like mine? When I would ask my parents for something, they would say no, and I would ask why. They said, because I said so. They didn't they didn't explain to me why not. Why not? And those fears, those concerns, I actually brought with me into adulthood. And that was one of the things, and I know you brought up the book, Women Building Wealth, and that was one of the things that I talked about in the book, Women Building Wealth. And wealth is an acronym for wholeheartedly encourage activity leading to happiness.
Mm.
So
Say that one again. Say that again.
Wholeheartedly encourage activity leading to happiness.
Love it.
That's wealth. Don't put so much emphasis on monetary meaning wealth. Whatever you do every day, that's going to lead to your wealth. Health is wealth. The way you think about yourself is wealth. One of the things that I discussed in the first chapter is acceptance. And I personally had to accept my situation when it came to money, that I was committing financial abuse, that a lot of women do. We commit financial abuse against ourselves because we are not accepting who we truly are.
Yeah. You've made some very profound comments, particularly when you talk about the abuse, just most recently. You also mentioned the fear, and also when you talked about how we play it safe, specifically amongst Black women.
Mhm.
And all of those three things, they really resonated with me for different reasons. What I would like to know is, when you are dealing with a client who plays it very safe, and you did kind of touch on it just a little bit, but when you're dealing with someone who plays it safe, and oftentimes it's because of the fear that they have, the fear of the unknown, and like you mentioned, just the way in which we've been raised and we've been indoctrinated into a particular belief, and many times it is scary because this is all we know. We were taught that money don't grow on trees, and a whole lot more came with that. So we have a tendency to grip our hand very tight when it comes to letting go of that so-called almighty dollar. I really want to, would like for you to maybe share, do you have tactics that you might use to kind of soften up people and help them to really understand how powerful that dollar really can be if they did just release some of these fears that they have? Because what I've come to realize is that, just from my experience with investing and conversations that I've had when I've even attempted to get someone to invest in some projects that I might be working on, what I come to realize is that a majority of the people that I ended up engaging in conversation with around the subject of investing, they really had a scarcity mindset. They were not only just fearful, which, scarcity definitely comes from fear, but they really looked at the dollar as if, like, if I have a dollar and I give you 10 cents, that's going to leave me with 90 cents. And then, I'm going to have to figure out, like with me, I've always been a risk taker. I just have, I'll jump into something because I look at it, and I'm not saying that this is the best way, but I look at it, well, heck, if I got a dollar and that's all I have, It's not necessarily that's all I have, but this dollar might be able to, if I have a dollar and it's hot outside, put it like that. It's hot outside. I'll say hot because right now in the Chicagoland area it's cold. So, and I want an ice cream cone, to just kind of cool me down. The value in that ice cream cone or that lemonade for me is more than what the dollar can get me, just keeping it in my pocket. So I look at the value that's attached to what I actually can receive from actually being able to invest, because in my mind, it's still an investment. I was able to quench my thirst. I was able to, get cool just for a moment. And I didn't have to be hot, or at least it didn't make me seem like I was so hot. So with all that being said, what are some tactics that you use when you're working with clients who, have the scarcity mindset?
Well, I do. Thank you. I appreciate the question. One of the things that I do start out with is, for one, I was always told when you close your hand, nothing can get in and nothing can go out. You are truly walking around with a closed hand. And it's so funny you said money does not grow on trees, because I say this all the time. And I also said this recently. Money may not grow on trees, but we can plant the seeds for our financial future.
Yeah.
So in planting those seeds, we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. One of the things that you said as an example was purchasing ice cream when you are hot, or that's what you have a taste for. But we have to change our mindset, and get people to realize that it's not always a tangible good that's going to reward you. There are a lot of people that say, well, if I don't feel it, if I don't see it, then it's not going to happen. But at the same time, that's not what hope is. That's not what a vision consists of. So I like to use examples when I get people to get out of their fear of investing. I'm not the typical person that's going to sit down and say, okay, well, yeah, we'll just do this and do that. I want you to honestly think about it. We're going to have a conversation, especially if you are a parent or you have loved ones. So think about this. I always ask people, how often do you have a financial conversation with yourself? I'm not talking about, oh, I'm going to the club when I get paid or something's on. No. How often do you have a financial conversation? I mean, dig down and dirty with it. And before you even receive your income, you are sitting down and you're planning everything to the penny. This is where I see my money. I want my money to be placed in this particular account. I am going to live according to the 50, the 30, the 20 rule. As they like to say, 50% for your needs, 20% towards savings, and 30% toward your wants, which I personally have a problem with that. We're going to talk about that later, because I don't think that we should have 50% going toward your needs, and 30 towards your wants and 20 towards your savings. I have an entire different vision. But what I do ask people all the time is, do you feel comfortable with your actions right now? And if they tell me yes, and then I ask them, do you feel comfortable possibly being homeless in 20 years? And that may be drastic, but you have to think about this. If you continue in making the financial decisions that you are making right now, you will not be able to properly support yourself in the future. Not only that, because we are responsible not just for us, but for our family, and for most of us, our community, you're teaching the ones around you how to be homeless too. Have that mindset as well. We have to learn to live by example. And what I mean by that is, let's say, I'm going to use us as an example, and this is a conversation I truly have with my husband. he and I, we at one time handled things very differently when it came to our finances. But we always have the talk every weekend, where we are going to put our money. Where is it going? And we involve our son as well, who will be 18 next month. And so when I didn't want to grow up saying to him, when he asked me something, why can't I have anything? Because I said so. Because I started at one time, but then I thought about it. I'm leading him down this road that my parents led me.
Mm.
So I said, we have to invite him into these conversations, which is what we had to start doing now, getting out of our comfort zone and being accountable of what we are going to do. When you're having this conversation with people and you want them to invest and they're like, well, I don't know because I only have $1 and you want me to give you 10 cents. Well, most people tithe or they give offerings or whatever it is that they want to give. Why can't you give to yourself? When I tell people all the time, when you create your budget, you should be at the top of that budget, just like your mortgage is. It should be your mortgage. It should be pay yourself next, which is whatever it is, your retirement, your savings account, and go on, so on and so forth. But the reality is a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. And we have to get people to understand that your rewards are not always tangible. You are when you see your account, you know that for most of us who are, if not all of us who are on the phone, we've had our savings account as well as our investments account, and we may have had automatic contributions going into it and just forget about it. A couple of months later, we look at it, we're like, oh my God, I never even thought about it. But see, now you're visualizing it. And we have to sit down and have these uncomfortable conversations, which is what I do to address the issues of people who do not want to invest. Have these uncomfortable conversations. I pull out the statistics on the difference of ethnicities as well as genders. And I ask them, why not you? Why not you? Why can't you contribute? It doesn't matter if it's $5 a week. If you can spend money on that ice cream, even though you were thirsty or you were hot, hungry, and oh my God, don't get me started. I'm not even a Starbucks queen, but I went in there. Now I'm getting sidetracked because I'm gonna tell you this. We've been on vacation one day, and one month rather, and I told my husband, I said, look, you like to travel. We can't keep getting on planes all the time. Let's do road trips. When I grew up, I'm gonna tell you, I didn't know that we were poor. I didn't. Because my parents knew how to manage. And of course they said, because I said so you can't have anything. But at the same time, they put money to the side. We took road trips, we camped, we fished every weekend, we did all of that. So I told my husband, I said, look, we're gonna have to take a road trip. We took a road trip, we were driving, it took us like 16 hours. So it was my turn to drive. And I said, I'm tired. I went to Starbucks. I was overwhelmed. And I was like, can I have a small coffee? They were like, no, we have tall, we have this. And I said, what is this? And then when they told me how much it was, and it was like almost $6, I said, what? $6? That was not in my budget, because we budget to the T. We budget to the T. But to answer your question, I sit down and I lay out statistics and I talk about things that are intangible, because your wealth is intangible, your health is intangible, your peace of life is intangible. And we have to make sure that we are moving forward in our best interest, because we have to lead by example. And we have to make sure that at the end of the day, we take care of ourselves. Idealistically, we want our children to have open arms and open doors and say, look, when you reach a certain age, we'll be here to take care of you. But we need to still make sure we look into the long-term care insurance. We need to make sure we have life insurance, not GoFundMe accounts. We need to make sure that No, seriously, it breaks my
That's
heart
true.
to see this
It's true.
because again, we don't want to
Man.
have this conversation. I have conversations like this even with people in my family, and they say, "No, Bahia, I don't want to talk about death."
Mm.
Well,
Teach.
we don't have to. Let's talk about life. Let's talk
Mm.
about celebrating life when that person. Let's. How are we going to celebrate that person's legacy? And that's
Yes.
another reason why we have that disparity. You have people in other ethnicities come in with checks of $200,000, and you're wondering
Mm.
how they were
Mm.
able to start a business or how they paid cash for their graduate school. Well, all the grandkids had a life insurance policy on grandma, and they were able to use that money in their best interest. And that's what we have to learn to do, and not walk around, as I like to say, being broke ballers. Stop putting so much emphasis on material things. No, seriously, think about this.
Broke
Think about
ballers. I like
broke
that.
ballers, broke ballers. Now think about this. We spend $1 trillion, not a million, not a billion, $1 trillion.
Trillion.
Just think if
Wow.
we take our resources and instead of them pulling at our purse strings and saying, look, we're going to market toward this community and truly understand not only our buying power, but our ability to pull ourselves up and work together, we can really do so much within our community and our households and take care of ourselves as well. So I know it can be frustrating, like I say, to talk to somebody who does not want to invest. But I'm telling you, I spend countless hours in front of people, and even if it's just one individual, and just educating. And that's more important than anything. Even if they never sit down with me for another year, I have planted the seeds in them to actually research and self-educate themselves on the fact that they can invest. It is not as scary as you think it is. What's fearful is the unknown, and the unknown is not knowing what to do. That is a problem when it comes to investing, not knowing, which is another reason why I created the nonprofit organization Brown Girls Do Invest. And we literally have telephone conferences, webinars, and we travel this
Mm.
country. We sell out everywhere we go. The need is there. We want to do better, and we want to overcome those fears. And once we receive that knowledge, we can do that. And it's one step at a time, and it's me holding your hand and you holding her hand and saying, look, sis, we can do this together. So that's how we do it.
Fantastic.
Sis, I have a two-part question for you.
Sure.
The first part of my question is, do you think that as Black people, our individual view of investing affects is affected by our lack of a vision of a community, of our community building wealth together? It just seems like we don't have an individual view of the importance of investing, but we also don't have it as a community as well. I won't have a two-part question. I'll just let you answer that. I'll ask my second question at a later time. But what do you think about that, as
So,
far as comparison to other groups?
oh, absolutely. We don't do it individually. If you don't do it, think about it. If you're not an advocate for yourself, how can you be an advocate for your community?
Right.
So we that's why it's so important for us to sit down and know, find out what we need to do, and not only that, to understand the importance. We need to go back to what we did decades ago, when after 1865, when we finally all of us found out that we were free. And one of the first things that the conversations that we have, I'm reading a book right now by Zora, Sora, okay, Zora Neale Hurston. I love her as a writer. She wrote Barracoon. And I love it one of the reasons why I love it is because it's giving the story from our perspective and no one else. And he was one of the last of the individuals to come over from Africa. And I mention him because he remembered hearing that they were free. And one of the things they said was, what are we going to do now? We don't have any land. We don't have anything to do. and we don't have any resources. So and we can't go back to Africa, because when they went to the previous slave owners about sending them back to Africa, they said, no, we're not going. You're going to have to work for your money if you want to go. Well, they worked hard. But see, that was the mindset back then, that we need to build together. So in order for us to build together, I'm going to help you. We're going to build our homes in this particular community. I'm going to get the wood. You're going to get the nails. You're going to fetch the water. We're going to do everything together. But see, this is where I think the disconnect comes in. When we build everything together, someone else comes in and knocks it down. It's like the kid who doesn't know how to play. Like, your Legos are bigger than mine. Bam. Seriously. When you think about the various Black Wall Streets and all the other communities, it's like, we don't want you to be part of what we're doing. Go do your own. And when it's done, it's knocked down. And I think every time that's done, it takes something away from us, where we don't think that we're capable, as well as, why should I continue, is going to be knocked down. But more importantly, we need to make sure that we are educated on what we want, and we are going to do what it takes individually to bring it to a community together, and get all the naysayers and the self-doubters out the way. So I to answer your question, it does have to start individually in order for the community to do it together, because we have to do it collectively in order to move forward. And we have to be on one agenda. And that's what a lot of other ethnicities have. They're on one agenda. Yeah. When you think about Chinatown and Jewtown, as they call it, Greektown, everyone's on one agenda. When something happens in the United States, we're like one of the biggest communities that complain, because we know it's going to affect us directly. You don't hear a lot of other people complain, because they have their own economics. And because they have their own economics, they come together and they say, look, in order for you to want something from us, to receive something from us, this is what you have to do for us. We don't have that. So it's going to take some time for us to get together. To be honest, in my personal opinion, I think we're getting there, slowly but surely. I think it's getting to the point where we're just tired. And we don't always want to be inclusive. Not to say that we want to divide ourselves from everybody, but why can't we have ours as well? But I think we're starting to come to that point where we want to know how to get to the next level as well. And not only get to it, but maintain it, make it grow, and leave it as a legacy for generations to come. We need to stop buying things that are meaningless and buying things and giving it away. One of the reasons, and I say that from a personal point of view, my mom, who's a homeowner, she has a couple of homes, and she's thinking about, she's retired, and she says, well, Bahiyah, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I think I'd rather just stay in a little condominium and just sell my homes. No, why would you do that? For one, you worked hard, you raised us in these homes. Leave it to us so we can continue to pass it down. And we honestly had a family meeting, not just with us, but we chose which grandchild is going to get it after us as well.
Okay, wow.
So and
proactive.
And exactly. Because think about it, that's how a lot of other ethnicities do. They leave things over to each other. We don't. That's one of the things we do not do. So we actually had that conversation as well. And I can't sit here and encourage people to do things that I'm not willing to do, which is have financial conversations and overcome financial fears and being held accountable and changing my personal habits as well to discontinue the financial abuse. Because I was the woman who said, well, you know what? I don't have to invest now. I have years to do that. And I was the woman who purchased everything and my cars and my clothing items because I looked like the part, and other people's opinions were more valuable than what I thought about myself. And once I knocked that wall down, I was able to progress in life as well and share my thoughts and as well as my expertise with others. And that's what we need to do. Stop basing our life on what other people feel toward us, their perception toward us, and what we need to do in our life as well. And same thing with our community. One of the, as I said before, they market toward us because they know that we're going to go out and purchase those Nikes. Why purchase them when you can be an owner? If you're going to own a pair of Nikes, you need to own one share of Nike.
Absolutely.
At
Absolutely.
least. And that's a conversation that I've had. My husband and I have had with our son. He's never been into all the name brand, but he's been investing for a few years now. And he said, well, Mom, I want a pair of Jordans. I'm like, Jordans? Why? Jordan wasn't even playing. You weren't even born when Jordan was around. What? So once we had that conversation, I said, no, just make me a list of 10 items that you use. Now, he didn't have any gadgets. So he was like, I don't know what to write down. I said, go to school. Look at your friends. Tell me what they have on. Tell me what gadgets they have. And he did. And so we started looking things up. And some of the things he told me, I said, okay, they're not on the market, so you cannot invest in that company. So there were quite a few that he was able to. I said, so now read some articles about those companies. Don't just look at the performance. Don't look and tell me how much the share is. Read some articles, research, and see if that's what you want to invest in and where it's going. And that's what we've been doing ever since with him. And I believe that's what we need to do as well. There's such a market out there for us to invest. And one of the first questions people ask, where do I go? What do I do? Well, look within our own community. Where do we go as a community? We go to Walmart. As you said, we go to Starbucks. Brother down the street, we already know he got a Nike. 9 times out of 10, I drank the Kool-Aid. I got an iPhone, finally. So those are the things we invest in to start so that we do overcome the fear of being uncomfortable because we do not know. But start with where you are.
You hit on a lot of points again that I think are extremely important, for our listeners, as well as for us that's, on the conversation, because we do all have children. And having a conversation, the right type of conversation with our family, particularly our children, is extremely important. Like you mentioned, the conversation, having with your son, which can you imagine if more conversations were taking a place around the table with our children, in the same manner in which you did, what that would create. Because now when they go back with their friends, I can just speak even from my own experience. My son, I even listen sometimes when I hear him on the phone, I'm listening to what he's talking about sometimes. And it's very different from maybe 2 years ago, because he's really become more focused about his future. Said something a few weeks ago when we were talking. He came to me, he was like, Ma, I was just wondering, do you think is $10,000 enough for me to, get a piece of property, and help you out and work with you? And I was like, well, I had to stop for a moment. I said, well, here, and a voice, I said, well, do you have $10,000? And he was like, well, I'm just asking, pretty much maybe by the spring I should. And I said, okay. I said, well, really, whatever you have right now, I'm sure that's enough. Let's kind of talk about that. He was like, no, I'm going to wait. I set my goal. That's what I want to do. But just to be able to have that conversation, I was able to break down some things, to him on his level where he understood. And he was like, wow, that's pretty cool. He was like, okay, well, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to do it like that. So when I heard a conversation that he had one of his friends, they were talking about girls, but he was like, well, I don't have time for that. I'm just not on that right now. He's like, I have to go and stack this money, he said, because that's just not my focus, man. He's like, I got to be able to make a way for myself in the future. And even though he has a lot to still learn, it was just good for me to be able to hear that he's taking some of the information, some of the things that I'm suggesting that he reads, and he's listening, but being able
Exactly.
to speak to him on his level. So when you talk
Exactly.
about, like, what are your people wearing? Oh, they're wearing these shoes. Or my son used to be so into that stuff. He really was for a moment, but not anymore, because he's like, shoot, wait a minute. He's talking more about stocks. And so I'm like, this is really good. But imagine if we could all do it more.
Exactly. Exactly. But do you, as a mom, as a parent, I know that's a proud moment, but more importantly, not just with your son, with each and every one of us.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. The mindset shifts when you are armed with knowledge, and the conversations that you had before are not the same conversations that you engage in. It's not too late for us, as well as our generations and the generations to come, to change the way we see things and not define value in material possessions and possibly tangible possession. Now, a home is a great tangible possession. And I'm loving the fact that he has this vision, and you are engaging in a conversation with him, so that when he does reach a certain age, he knows what to do. Now, I'm gonna talk about this. One of the things, in order for us to address the problem, is for us to know what the problem is. So we honestly have to sit down and think about what is going on in our community, and particularly with Black women. And I say Black women because not only are all of us on this call Black women, but let's face the fact that for the most part, we are the decision makers, whether we want to have that responsibility or not. When we move, everything moves with us. We move, everything moves, and we have to understand the power that we have, from our words to our touch to the fashion that we wear, our beliefs, how we drive every value that we have. I want to say this to you as a parent, and especially since your son is really adamant about getting himself together. And this is something that Akila and I have spoken about before. And with when I sit down with students, because I educate from 12 years young all the way up to 112 years young. Now, for us, it's a little different, because we are already in the mindset of, I can't save, I can't save. So now I have to convince you that you actually can save, and I have to start you out with a comfortable amount. Now, with your son, on the other hand, let's get him now. This is what I want you to do. When it comes to our children, let's educate them to save 50% of their income. And when I first had this conversation with a parent, they were like, 50%? That's a lot. To whom? To a child or a young adult who is just starting out. That's nothing, because they don't know where to start. So if they're netting $500 and they're putting $250 away, and then they are enjoying life on the other 50%, why not? We have to teach them to honestly put away 50%. Now, for my son, who's been doing it since the beginning of time, because he's always DJ'd, and last year he had his first job punching a clock as a lifeguard. He never spent any of his checks except for one. That child has, his savings account is ridiculous. Now, I'm gonna tell you this. This is his goal. After he finished with college, he already knows what he's going to do. We're going to put him in this program that he is going to earn $90,000 a year. So his net is going to be 65. So we invited him. Now, this is one of the things that a lot of parents don't do, because I have conversations even with him in front of his friends and their parents, and they say, oh, once he turned 18, they out. That's not us. Because what we do is we set our young ones up for failure.
Failure, yes.
They don't know what to do. They barely know how to make ends meet. And society makes it seem as though once they turn 18, it's a light switch and they know everything to do. No, I'm almost 50 years old and I'm still learning stuff in life. So what we told him, and he has agreed on to do, he will only live off of 15,000 a year. He has nothing to do. There will be no rent to be paid. He already will have a vehicle that he'll be paid, that he will pay cash for. There are no other responsibilities. He's actually on my credit card as an authorized user because my credit score, yay, is great. So to help out our son, to help build his credit, he's on there. I've already explained to him, even though you have access to one of these cards and you see you have thousands of dollars on it, you are to spend no more than 25% of this card because they're looking at the debt to the limit ratio, which severely impacts your credit score. So he's already on that. So he will only live off of $15,000. What he does with that $15,000, he wants to go hang out with his friends, buy clothes, do whatever. That $50,000 goes into his savings account. The goal is for him to live with us for the over 3 to 5 years. So if he chose 3 years, that's $150,000 he has saved up when he leaves out this house. He's already started looking into franchises. He found a franchise that just to start out with the franchise, $10,000. That's not including the annual fees. So he's already his goal is to franchise. Even though we don't even eat, I'm vegan. We don't even eat McDonald's. But I'm going to get 3 McDonald's franchises, and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I'm staying home with you and Dad for so many years. So we have to plant those seeds in our children, and that's part of the legacy that we are leaving for our children. So when your son, and I'm so excited that he is looking into purchasing property, and he can do everything from flipping to rehab, foreclosure, tax liens. I mean, right now he can even own a lot. There are so many lots in Michigan and in the area of Detroit where they purchasing lots for $500. And think about this. I know someone, who owns a lot in the area. There was a gas station. There is now a gas station on that lot who wanted to be there. So they leased out the lot they own, and they are collecting tens of thousands every month from this gas station. And they only spent a few $100s on this lot. But they won't relinquish the lot to them, and rightfully so. They should not, because I mean, look at the money that they are earning on it. So I believe that we should start having these conversations with ourselves, with our girlfriends, with our husbands, with our children, at least every week. What are your financial goals? What are you going to do? How are you going to get there? And continue to check in, and not just say, hey, how much do you have in your account? Now, I'm a stalker. I'm on my son's accounts, all of them. Okay, what do you have? Okay, where, you did what? Where did you go for the? Oh, Mom, I spent this from my account. Well, why did you take it from your account when you have money in your pocket? Because Dad told me a man should always have money in his pocket. So I didn't want to take money out of my pocket. Okay, fine, as long as you don't touch the account. So, but see, again, these are the seeds that we are planting, because again, as I said before earlier on this, during this conversation, how we are right now is a result of our upbringing. If we spend money all the time, if we use the phrase, because you can't have it because I said so, or if you are frugal, it's a result of what we witness from our parents. And so that's what I would love for us to do as influential women to do in our community, as well as our family as well.
Yes, and God willing, we just through this conversation that we're having here, with conversations with the Royal Empress, this will inspire other parents, other mothers, other fathers to continue the conversation with their children. So thank you for what it is that you do, because this is the type of work that really is like the gasoline that kind of gets the car to move, so that it can not just sit on the lot, and that's that money just sitting there on the lot, not doing anything with it. Well, you have to get the car, you have to get the keys and start the car, and then you got to get it moving. And that's that engine, being able to share with the listeners, the different strategies as it relates to investing.
Mhm.
It's not just letting it sit in a savings account. It's not just letting it just sit. It's about taking it and what are you going to do with that dollar so that you can make
Absolutely.
more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to address what we talked about in the very beginning when I introed, and that's about the financial 101 for us. Because so many Black women are, right now, we're leading households, talk about how to keep our financial affairs in order. And that's everything. And a brief 101 lesson.
Okay. For one, I want you to recognize myths. And that's starting out with I have to earn more money in order to save money, in order to become rich or wealthy. Address all myths that you've heard. You do not have to be rich in order to save. When it comes to saving, as I said before, put something to the side. You will be amazed at how that will accumulate. And I did briefly mention, because someone may ask or wonder, well, what is a proper amount to save? I have no idea. At this point, of course, I said at 50%. I would love for you to do that, but let's start out with at least 20%. 20% of your income, your net income of saving. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to set up automatic contributions, as opposed to saying, well, I'll just take the money out of my pocket, because it may not make it to your savings account because you're going to see something that's on sale. And until you learn how to address your lack of discipline, you're going to walk around with that $500 handbag and only have $5 in there. You should not have a handbag that's more than what you have inside of your bag. And learn how to, the third thing I want you to do is first, address all myths. Second, to save 20%. The third thing I want you to do is to invest. Take advantage of what your employer has for you, whether it's a 403B, 401k, 457. And if you do not know how much to start out with, ask your employer, what's the matching contribution? And if they say, well, 3% is the matching contribution, well, start out with that. Start out with that. If your employer does not have it, or you're an entrepreneur, you don't have access to an employer-based retirement fund, that's when you can go and open up your IRA so you can maximize your retirement. One of the things that I do want, and I'm all about challenges, not like, oh, if you don't do it, then oh well, but challenge yourself to do this. Every month I do a spending cleanse. And what that consists of, I do not spend one dime for an entire week. Not for 1 week. So I already, again, remember I said we have conversations in our household every Thursday or Friday anyway. So we set ourselves up and say, okay, you know what? It's the third week of the month. We're not spending anything. So you need to make sure gas tank is full. If you're traveling, you need to make sure that you already have the money in your pocket. The bills already need to be paid. We're not touching the checking account at all. We're not going out to eat. We're not getting that Starbucks. You're not spending anything for the rest of the week. The next thing I want you all to do, which is the last thing, 1 day a month, when you go and, because most people shop every monthly, but at least choose one time where you are actually out shopping and you catch a sale. There's a sale somewhere, Marshall's, wherever you want to go, and you have $100 in your pocket. And you say you're spending $100 just for that sale. And just so happen you only spend $45 because that one item was on sale. So how much do you have now? $55. I want you to take that difference and put it into your savings account. That's a true savings. That's what we need to start doing. Don't just walk out the door and say, yeah, I saved $55. And next thing you know, you're going to have brunch with mimosas and everything else. No. Take that $55 and put it into your savings account and watch it accumulate. That's what I want us to start doing.
I'm going to do that. I like that challenge. I'm going to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what those are my thoughts as far as us to reflect back to the beginning of our conversation, Akila.
Okay. And challenge accepted.
Thank you.
Yeah, that spending cleanse every month. We're doing it now.
Yeah, I like
Just
that.
1 week. Just 1
No,
week.
I
You
know
know,
that's what I mean. Each month, 1 week out of the month. So,
exactly. And
yeah.
you know what? You would be amazed how much money you save. Because I'm going to tell you, I go everywhere. I don't care, plane, train, automobile. I'm always on the road. And there are times when I'm sitting and I'm waiting for a client, and I would just pop in, knowing I do not need this green juice, or I do not need, no, seriously, or this umbrella because I think it's cute and it matches a pair of shoes that I have. Next thing I know, I'm spending and I'm coming in the house, and it takes my son to bust me. I was like, Mom, what do you got in the bag? I'm like, don't worry about it, child. I'm the adult. But knowing I should not have purchased. And then I'm looking at the receipts, because what I do is I have a habit. I'm not going to say a bad habit. I have a habit, and it irritates my husband because he does not like clutter. I will pile my receipts up, and I will look, and I keep my receipts, and it could be 3 months later. I will look at my receipts, and I'm looking, and I would ask myself, have I even used this item? And if I did not, I highlight it. And then I start adding up, and I'm like, look how much money I wasted. I haven't even used this in 3 months, and I'm wasteful. So that's another reason why I started the cleanse, because I wanted to stop being so wasteful with my money and start applying it toward places, accounts where I knew it was going to maximize my future. I know my son loves me, but I know he doesn't want me to live with him when I retire and I can't, take care of myself. No, I want to make sure I enjoy life. And another way for me to do it is to make sure I eradicate every expense I have. We were having a conversation recently that he wants to retire soon. If you do, the house has to be paid for. I don't want us to have any debt whatsoever. None. So if we want to, and we want a vacation, we can when we retire. And a lot of people think about that they cannot afford to retire. They have to work forever, which is another way for us to close out that disparity gap as well. But a lot of us, we figure as though we're going to work for another 40 years after we should retire. No, seriously. And many of us do, because we were not mindful of what we were supposed to do when we were working and paying off everything. So you have to really make sure you have these conversations with yourself, with your spouse, with your family, because it affects everyone. And that's your immediate community right there. Let me say this. This is the book, Women Building Wealth, that I last published. And this is the wholeheartedly encourage activity leading to happiness. And it doesn't solely talk about finances. It talks about some of everything from clarity, education, leadership, and leadership from within. You can't. It's impossible for us to lead our family as well as our community if we're not leading ourselves. And we have to know what to do when it comes to what we want in life. So that's what wholeheartedly encourage activity leading to happiness, to do something every day. What is your vision, and how are you going to break your vision down every month, every week, and every day? You should not go a day without doing something that's going to lead toward your happiness. And whatever that happiness is, eradicating all debt, or paying off some sort of credit card, putting money towards your retirement, whether your happiness is your health, you need to do that. You need to do that. And that's activity every day.
But here, where can we get you?
Amazon.
Can you repeat the title of your book again?
I sure can. It is Women Building Wealth. Yes.
The wealth of information in that book as well.
Thank you. Yes, it is.
I have one last question for
Sure.
you, and we something we mentioned earlier about brown girls do invest. Can you talk a little bit about that?
And I am, you can't even see this shirt, but I am happily wearing this,
I see it. I see
my as my walking billboard. Brown Girls Do Invest. It was a thought back in 2014, and the reason why I started is because so many people sat in front of me and they were like, okay, Bahiyah, I trust you to invest my money, but I really don't know how this works. I have no idea what stocks consist of. I overheard some people talking about real estate. I don't know what to do. So I started Brown Girls Do Invest officially in February of 2016, and it became a 501c3 in October of the same year, 2016. What we do is not only in the school corporations we visit, and we have after school programs, weekend programs, and summer programs for the students to educate them, we do for the adults as well. And as I said before, when it comes to adults, we have speakers and experts across the board on how investing one-on-one. As far as starting out, what is a stock? What do I look for? How does it work? What should I invest in? How should I invest? We recently had a conference, telephone conference, investing in the stock market for broke folk. A lot of people think that they cannot do it. So we had a conversation about that as well. And then we also have our experts when it comes to real estate, and they educate you on acquiring through tax liens, foreclosures, rehabs, things of that nature, or just being a landlord, multiple streams of income. How can you have multiple streams of income? A lot of us have so many hidden gems and hobbies, and I'm not the type of person to say leave your 9 to 5 and just go and pursue everything. Most of us need our 9 to 5 to finance our vision. So use that as an income for yourself and start pulling out different ways you can have your multiple streams of income. And that's what we do. Is again, from 12 years old to 112 years old, we are out educating. And not only that, we visit different cities. This year we're going to Atlanta, which we already sold out 2 events. We're gonna do another one, a third one. In Atlanta, we'll be there in March. We'll be in Chicago because we are in Chicagoland. We'll be in Chicago in June, and we will also be this year. We will be in New York, and we will be in Houston. In addition to that, we are also visiting HBCUs because we were asked to go. After that, we will be in to deliver this message as a panel discussion as well as breakouts. Montgomery, Alabama, Washington, D.C., Charlotte, North Carolina, and Miami. We're also, not only just when it comes to stocks, because a lot of states are legalizing marijuana, we have an expert that talks about cannabis as well, from retail to owning raw land. So for people who may not want the retail, and as well as want to invest in stocks, how can they get into that particular industry? For me, I like to do a lot of stuff. In my backyard, because we're on an acre, I have a garden, and I'm always gardening. So for someone who loves to garden, maybe they want to grow hemp, so they can purchase a raw land for hemp and see how they can get into it that way. So we talk about a lot of things of educating our community and going forward when it comes to finances with the Brown Girls Do Invest. So it's investing your money and making it grow for you. And the tools that we provide to you, not only do we educate you, but we provide to you resources for you to leave as a legacy as well. And for you to, and I love this organization because we have mothers in there with their daughters and with their sons, and they're like, well, I want them to know so that they can be ahead of the game compared to where I was at their age. So this summer, we're actually going to have a student summer investment club. And what I'm loving about it is an 8-week program. And we're going to break down investing. So I'm going to have them choose companies. I'm going to start them out with a virtual account of $100,000. And we're going to invest. So it's not means you can just go in and us going in and lecturing. No, we're going to see how you actually manage your account, what you invest in. So we're going to show them how to look at the trends, look at the performance, the shares, research companies, break everything down. And you are going to pick and choose your own investments. And at the very end, you're going to stand up and disclose your portfolio, why you chose certain accounts, as well as what is the balance now, the asset under management in your portfolio. So starting out with $100,000, you may end up with $1 million. You may end up with $25,000. But we're going to ask you, why do you have this certain amount of money based on what you pick? And then what I love about this too, all the participants, all the students are going to leave with a share. They're going to own one share of Nike. So even if they never buy anything, at least now when they walk down that hallway and they see them pair of shoes and like, you know what, your mama just paid me. Thank you for buying them Nikes. Seriously, thank you for buying them Nikes. And it's going to allow them to feel that self-worth. And for me, and that's why I said net worth to me is associated with self-worth. Because when you feel good about yourself, you want to do better at handling your money. A lot of people spend their money because they don't feel good about themselves and they don't feel like they value. And it's not going to work out for me. So that's what I'm loving about what we do in this organization. So we have ladies across the board, not just across this country, but as well as their expertise as well. So their experience as investment advisors, attorneys. They handle taxes. They have some of everything, and everything, traders, option traders, and the conversation is not over the top where you're just going to walk out with it like a deer in headlights and say, I have no idea what Bahiyah or anybody else said. No, you're going to understand everything is spoken and broken down in layman's term, where if you sit down in front of an advisor, which we encourage you to do when you go back and you say, look, I'm ready to open this account. Now you have positioned yourself to know what questions to ask and not just accept what someone has to say to you to put you in this account, because you have sat down in front of somebody who looked like you, who concerns and comments and education resonates with you. And again, we have armed you with the tools to be your expert as well. So that's what we do with the Brown Girls Do Invest. And I particularly chose Brown Girls Do Invest because of the disparities. We need to catch up. Not that I don't care about anyone else, but I feel like this and I'm sure you've heard it, other advisors, when they say, well, when it comes to your finances, it's like riding in an airplane. If the oxygen mask fall down, you put it on first and then you take care of, the other person. Same thing when it comes to Brown Girls Do Invest. I feel as though I have to take care and educate our community before I can go and educate someone else's and provide you with the resources that we have not had in the past. So that is my calling to do.
We're happy that that's your calling.
Thank you.
And I so appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to us. You are truly a wealth expert.
Thank you. I thank you ladies for having me. I really do. I was looking forward to this as always. Seriously, anytime I can surround myself literally as well as figuratively with a group of women who are on the same accord and want to better everyone, not just with the finances, but health and anything, so that we can do better in our lives. I was so looking forward to this, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have to mention, because you did tell me that Bahiyah is a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Proudly, yes.
So, can you give us any last parting words. And then after that, let us know how people can join Brown Girls Do Invest, as well as how to get in touch with you for any of your projects. And if they want to sit down and talk to you.
Okay.
Financial.
My parting words are to not be afraid to discuss what is important to you. As women, we would talk about everything. We would, except for our finances. And don't be embarrassed. Don't be secretive. Don't be shy, because you would be amazed that there is another woman going through exactly what you are going through. And I truly believe that if we continue to support each other and be a listening ear and share what resources we have used or are using, as well as what we are currently using that work with us, we can move together going forward. So, and I believe in all of you. I believe in all of you. I believe in us. We can do it. We can get ourselves together financially as well as spiritually and health-wise, and because it takes all of it in order for us to be successful. It's not just one thing. Just like in life, what you do in one situation transition into the next level. So that's my word, my parting words, to share with other women what you are doing so that we can move forward. How you can get in touch with, as far as Brown Girls Do Invest, we are across social media. Just as that, type in Brown Girls Do Invest on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, browngirlsdoinvest.org. You can visit us to see what we're doing, our events, what our mission statement is, our why, what we do. We have pictures and videos of our community, of what we have done in the past. You can also reach me, Bahiyah Shabazz, throughout social media as well as bahiyahshabazz.com. If you want to work with me on a personal level, as far as not just speaking, but what your next step should be financially, because I touch on budgeting, I touch on saving, I touch on investing. But not only that, I like to sit down with people to see where your head is. Just like you interview me, I interview you. Everyone's not ready. Everyone is not ready. As I said before, we have to address the problem. And that's what I like to do with people, address the problem so that we can move on and correct anything that you may want to financially, as well as your self-worth. So you can always reach me at bahiyahshabazz.com. And that's it in a nutshell. Don't forget, Women Building Wealth is on Amazon. And once again, I appreciate all of you. But please, when you go to browngirlsdoinvest.org, you can always sign up for our newsletter. Please join our newsletter. It's free to join the organization, so that you will have access to our various teleconferences as well as webinars, and know when our events are occurring. So then when we do go to your area, you can also, and on the website is where you can give a monetary donation. You can also purchase shirts, as well as do in-kind services. All proceeds, 100%, goes toward our programs, particularly for the youth, because it takes a lot to get the youth together, to educate them, as well as we have a financial literacy program with the organization that during the month of August, we give out thousands of financial literacy books to our young adults before they go back to school, to educate them on banking, credit, as well as investing. So we do that also.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sis. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Conversations with the Royal Empress. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Conversations with the Royal Empress. Tune in next week for another enlightening conversation. For more information on the Royal Empress, please visit the website royalempress.org. You can also follow the Royal Empress on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Conversations with the Royal Empress is a subsidiary of the Royal Empress organization. All rights reserved.